Where we see Brand Ireland currently is that in recent months in particular, Brand Ireland has been relatively badly affected internationally by the events that have happened, I guess, both globally and locally. Also, I think that during the boom years, what we didn't do was we didn't invest in a sustainable brand Ireland. I think we worked with the Celtic Tiger, and that satisfied our requirement at that point in time. Where we are now is we need to refresh the brand, we need to build a new brand identity. I suppose I would see it as a new national identity for Ireland as a 21st century economy. And I think it's very important that we undertake that as a matter of urgency. Our vision is that Ireland would be perceived internationally and recognised internationally as a global hub for knowledge, innovation and know-how, and that expertise, if you like, or competency would be supported by graduates coming out of school and out of universities that could actually feed into that vision and actually providing jobs for those individuals. And again, that's supported with the infrastructure and the competitiveness that we need as an economy to drive it. And as I've said before, with a sort of a can-do attitude, particularly from government around executing on that vision. I've said before, I'm actually a fan of the Smart Economy document, but I do think the Smart Economy document is very much a starting point. And the document in itself, if you've gone through it, sets out a framework for the type of, I guess, the type of knowledge economy that we would aspire to achieve. The challenge with a document like that is that it is and would remain a framework. I think what we need to do is prioritise aspects of it. So I would be saying it's great to have the document, but we need to get into execution. We need to set targets for achieving some of the goals that are inside it. And we need to actually measure how we achieve those goals. So a great starting point, but something that we actually need to move a lot faster to deliver against. If you look at where the IDA has been very successful in Ireland, it's attracting in industries in the technology space, in the pharmaceutical space, and in other areas. Our vision would mean that we would marry, if you like, indigenous areas of competence with those FDI areas, so that we're actually building up our own indigenous job creation culture and also our own indigenous exports. So just to give you an example of a few of those, obviously one of the areas we've talked about many times is the whole area of intellectual property. So if you create the right tax environment here and the right ecosystem, you will have a situation where a HP or a Google or a Microsoft will say, well, look, let's create more and more R&D jobs in Ireland, and obviously that brings with it the high value jobs that we're talking about, and obviously those jobs, because the expertise is here in Ireland, those jobs will grow and grow here. Alongside that, I think we should be bringing along, developing indigenous businesses that can feed off that R&D, whether they're actually acquiring the R&D from a HP or a Microsoft or a Google and developing their own products and bringing them to market directly in that way, or alternatively they're actually developing their own concepts and ideas, but working again with multinationals to get those out onto the international stage. So I think you need to have almost an IDA style organisation that's working with indigenous players to make sure that they can get out onto the international stage with the products and the services that they're working with. So intellectual property is one way of doing it. Now, just to sort of bring it to life maybe a bit more, one of the areas that HP has focused on is how we deliver international services out of Ireland. So in Ireland, as you know, we have a fantastic melting pot of international cultures and many people who migrated and who now live here. So we support international customers, many HP international customers from this campus here in Leixlip, where we have that unique combination of the international languages and the technical skills side by side, and you have employees who are working together supporting international customers. So there's an example where we can support international or provide international services out of Ireland using, again, some of the raw material that we have here. It's just one example, but I think if you take that into the pharmaceutical sector and look at where there are unmet needs internationally, can Irish organisations be developed to deliver against those? If you look at other sectors and apply the same, like the green and the renewables and energy, apply the same principles, and that's the vision that we have for as to how we would move Ireland forward. Great strides have been made at third level. I think the area that we really need to watch out for in Ireland is primary and secondary level. Again, just to give you an example, and it goes back to the discussion we had about cities and about countries, the pupils that are coming up through primary and secondary schools in Ireland, obviously they'll have to go out there ultimately and compete with their own counterparts coming out of the schools in the UK and Northern Ireland and in other countries where the state has made huge commitments to the digital generation. So I'm advocating very strongly that we invest heavily in delivering the primary and secondary curriculum in Ireland using ICT as one of the vehicles to deliver that curriculum. One of the things that I would be very keen to see in Ireland is what I would call more online-only services being delivered. I think that if we have online-only services, whether they are in the airline industry, whether they are government services that are available 24/7 by 365, or whether they are banking services, I think that that will create a culture where more and more people will go online. And I guess with that culture will then come, obviously you'll have people who will have the access devices, and equally will substantiate, I guess, the huge investment that we'll need to make to build out next generation networks in this country. So my vision of that is that particularly in a downturn, in a cycle that we're in currently, we are seeing, again from a HP perspective, more people buying notebooks and mobile products. That's a growth area, in fact, because people are working on the go more. They're not travelling as much. If they go into city centre, they're going to work in there and come home. So people are looking. So mobility is actually on the increase. I think that's one of the advantages, if you like, of a downturn. And equally, people are doing a lot more online because they can find value online. They can buy the airline tickets, the holidays. They can get more things done online. And I think that is part of one of the side effects of I guess, the downturn that we're currently in. I think that it's a collaborative effort. I mean, there's huge expertise in this country, particularly in business. I think that the leadership you're talking about has to come from government, but industry is very keen to support that. What I'd be advocating moving forward is that there's a much stronger level of engagement between government and industry, because clearly if the mantra is let's create jobs, then obviously the people who are, let's say, expert in that are people working in industry. But I think part of delivering the vision is going to be a much closer working relationship between government and business, again, as we move hopefully through and ultimately out of the downturn. I think that the proposition around building a digital infrastructure in Ireland really should be part of the National Development Plan. I really think that unless it's enshrined in stone in that plan, it won't happen. So we need to build a strategy for it, and we need to build it into the DNA of the National Development Plan. And I think when you've done that, the other piece you need to do around it, I think, is communication. I think that one of the things I would be advocating is that, again, politicians at all level are actually talking about this whenever they stand up to make a speech, because I think the more you communicate, the more you talk about this, the more actually we can bring it to life. The danger is we've been so overwhelmed with the challenges that we faced in some sectors that we forget that actually we have terrific strengths. We have a huge multinational base based in Ireland, most of whom are continuing to invest here. We also have a lot of very, very creative Irish companies, both established and new organisations that are setting up. I mean, one thing that impresses me greatly are the number of entrepreneurs that are actually out there and that come into HP on an ongoing basis with ideas and concepts. and we would work with those to obviously roll them out, if you like, onto the international stage. So amidst the sort of challenge and turmoil, there is actually real work being done. As I said to you, companies like ourselves are creating jobs because we're capitalising and harnessing Ireland's international services capability. Entrepreneurs are out there generating ideas and bringing new ideas to life, because again, that flow will go on. And one of the great attributes, I guess, of Ireland Inc. has always been this great entrepreneurial culture we've had. And as I said to you, that there are many, many people working out there today with some fantastic ideas. For me, I think, the question is, could Ireland create the next HP or the next Google or the next Microsoft? And based on some of what I've seen, I think there's no reason why we couldn't. But I think we need to really focus on the enterprise culture to deliver that.